This is Real Estate This Week with Stephen Gasque. 17 years on air and online, helping you succeed in buying, selling, and investing in property. The best real estate strategies out there, just for you.
Welcome to Real Estate This Week. Hi again, I'm Stephen Gasque, and I'm delighted you could join us for our first anniversary show. 1 full year of bringing you the best real estate strategies out there. And today, we're looking at a market that really needs good strategies, because in Chicago, there's still a big shortage of homes for sale. Prices are still rising, and sellers still hold all the cards. So, how can a home buyer win? Let's ask a pro who helps them win every day. Joining us now is Mabel Guzman with Coldwell Banker Hyde Park in Chicago, the past president of the Chicago Realtors and the recipient of the Illinois Realtors' highest honor, its Distinguished Service Award. Mabel, welcome to Real Estate This Week.
Thank you, Stephen, and thank you for having me on Real Estate This Week.
Well, you are very welcome. And as you well remember, when I started this show a year ago, you were my very first guest for a good reason, because you not only know real estate in your sleep, you explain it so well. So let me ask you first of all, Mabel, how's business in Chicago?
Business is busy, let me just say that. And I mean in the sense of people are out there, they're looking. Agents who are realtors, agents overall, are hustling, looking for properties as much as possible. In the city of Chicago, though, we do have an inventory issue. We're actually down 27% in inventory compared to last year. So the struggle is real in our market. When you're looking at the national, people looking at the state of the market, right? So month to month overall, they're looking nationally. And nationally, inventory is up. But there's still areas in the country, particularly the Midwest and right now the city of Chicago, that are not experiencing those inventory increases that have happened in other parts of the country. So when we look at it, even from the state of Illinois, they did a study and we are short 147,000 units to meet demand.
Whoa.
And for the next 5 years, and that's how much we would have to build. Over the next 5 years, we would have to build over 220,000 units just to keep with demand. So here it's not a pretty picture when we're looking at the state of what's available for homeowners, for home buyers, and getting out there and finding something. So, and with that, we get into the hamster wheel, right? That, well, if I can't find anything, then I can't sell what I have. So it doesn't make it available for the next person then to move in. Plus, we've experienced growth in our state since the last census with, I want to say over 250,000 people moving into Illinois. And the majority of them, I want to say in the last 5 years, if not less. So, I'd like to say it's great. It's great if you're a seller because, you're just going to have people coming at you and then they're just excited about the opportunity of being able to sell. Despite all that, home prices are up here 7%. And overall, we're experiencing 32 months of pricing increases.
Mabel, this is fascinating to me because I hear all over the United States, inventory's up here. It's looking good here. Prices are stable here, but not in your area. That is so interesting.
No. Maybe they're all moving here, and that's probably the issue. Over 200,000 people sold and they moved to Illinois. So, it's been very fascinating. The thing is, people are getting creative. They're getting into the tax rolls to see who's been a long-term owner, who's been, maybe close to retirement. They owe nothing on the house. So they can take every single dollar that they make on this property. They won't really have to, and then they can move on to something else. So if they're looking at retirement, do they want to move into a warmer climate? Not that we want people exiting our state, but at some point we do need to have some sort of turnover, and that really does rely on the seller. Moreover, on building, right? Because we do have to get to building.
And let's talk for a second about what that shortage of homes for sale means to your market. For one thing, that's one of the reasons I bet that prices are going up, because there aren't enough homes for sale. For another thing, sellers still feel that they can call all the shots because there aren't enough homes for sale. And there's more competition among buyers because there aren't enough homes for sale. That is a wild market like we saw several years ago, but it's still happening in Chicago.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even though we had this loss of inventory, we were really only off 3.7% decrease based on sales that were sold over year. So with that said, activity is robust. People are looking. People really want to get into housing. And I think there's also the concern with regards to, how do I say, interest rates, right? Because we're seeing them, it's go up, come down. I mean, there's really a certain amount of uncertainty. So people really want to make the most of this opportunity before they feel that's going to blow up, and then maybe, price them out completely out of the market.
I see.
So that's really important. Yeah, that's really important. I mean, when you're looking at home prices increasing for this 32nd consecutive month nationally, but we're seeing it here, consistently month after month after month, pretty much the same. And, and our average price point's gone up. So it was a 7.1% increase. We're now like at $407,000 for the city of Chicago. But hey, if you're selling, this is such a good time to be in that market because you are going to get everything you want. Now, depending on condition, right? We have to look at condition. It's still going to be overriding. But, I'm seeing some buyers say, you know what, I'll take it the way it is. And I'll just wait a while and do my changes. But it's livable, it's comfortable, and all the mechanicals are working. So we're starting to see buyers make a little bit of a sacrifice when it comes to it doesn't have to have it all. I just need a place to live. Yeah.
So let's stick with sellers for a minute, since you just mentioned it. Now, if I'm selling my home in Chicago, can I ask a price that is just not at all realistic, but way over the market price?
No.
No?
You still can't. You know why? Because people are going to say they're just trying to take advantage, and it's not going to work. Because first of all, people still have budgets, right, that they have to meet. And moreover, the buyer is looking at, well, if this person's being that so grossly overpricing their home, they may be an impossible person to work with. So yeah, we're going to stay away from that one. So that's really what it comes down to. We're still doing the comparables for clients. I mean, we're not going to go ahead and just say, yeah, go ahead and get it. We're going to say, let's look at the comps and look at the area. Yeah, they're about, we'll tell them, hey, it's 10 or 15% higher than what it should be. The buyer's going to say, I don't think it's worth it to me. Or they're going to say, is it worth it to me? Let's go see it. Right. So condition then better match up to that aggressive price still.
Right.
So when people look at it, they're going to say, this is an investment as well. I can't be dumb about this stuff. It's one thing about paying over list, but I was looking within my price point. It's different. Like you're pushing it beyond everything else. And then that means, yeah, you're going to be tough to work with. I don't think I want to proceed with this. And if not, people are still going to offer you less anyway, because they're going to say, hey, we did the comps, because you still have an appraisal that you have to go through.
Right.
If it's a cash deal, that's a little different. But on cash, they're going to say, I'm giving you cash. I don't want to give you all of it. I'm not going to give you your full price. I'm going to give you whatever it is that, I can give you. And those who are seeking financing are going to say, it'll never appraise, and this is the most I can give you.
And you just mentioned two ways that the buyers are protected against paying too much money. Number one in their line of defense is the realtor, who's going to say, hey, I've pulled the comparable values of other properties in the neighborhood, and this one's way over what it should be. And the second one, of course, is the appraisal. Now, if they get a mortgage, they're going to need an appraisal that's really in line with what the price should be. And that also protects the buyers.
Yeah. Now, they could sign an appraisal waiver, right, up to a certain point saying, hey, if it doesn't appraise, I'm willing to at least cover $10,000 of that appraisal. And then they'll have an expectation that maybe the seller will come down. But that's a limit, right? They're going to set a limit of how much more higher they're going to go even if they get into this deal based on the appraisal, because the bank is only going to loan them so much, and then they'll have to cover the rest. So those are some realities people have to, live with and face. Moreover, they want to feel good about it, right? Like, hey, I'm making a good investment. It actually appraised. I feel gratified in this transaction. But if it's something they really want, it could be location, could be schools, could be anything. And this has to be the place that they need, and I've helped clients with that. They're like, yeah, we're willing to pay extra because it's exactly where we want to be. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Now let's talk about if it doesn't appraise. And then we have that conversation. And then they say, this is how much we're willing to sacrifice if it doesn't appraise. And they'll set that standard for you based on that price.
And are most buyers negotiating, or are some buyers just saying, forget it, I'm walking away?
It just depends on the individual. It really does. Some folks, I've had folks who get frustrated after 6 months. They're like, I just want to stop. And then I have to say, okay, let's take a beat. Let's take a minute. Let's breathe, take a break, but let's come back. Because the thing is, I want to protect you against this market that, remember, is only increasing every single day. So you taking a beat doesn't mean taking a beat for 6 months. It takes maybe take off like 2 weeks, and then let's regroup and see where we're at, and then have a different strategy, right? Maybe it's a different area. Maybe it's what we're looking at. Maybe, it could be almost a host of things. It could be the type of property, it could be the location. It could be, maybe you need to go back to the lender and discuss how much you actually can afford. And we just keep looking at different strategies to get to the answer and say, okay, this is where we need to be. This is the location. This is the price. And I'm willing to sacrifice this much on an appraisal waiver, or I'm not willing to do that at all. So it's constant conversation. But when your folks get a little frustrated, it is good for them to step back a little minute, and you as well, sort of like refocus, refresh, and then go back out again.
I see. And so if I am a potential home buyer in Chicago, and my credit's fine, and my income is fine, and my cash reserves are good, and I've got the down payment ready to go, and I come to you, Mabel, what do you tell me about just how challenging the market is?
I share exactly what I shared with you. I talk about all the statistics, which, tell a story. I can share some anecdotal things, but obviously, very limited, because I don't want to disclose what other folks are going through that I'm representing. So it's a challenge. And at the same time, it's a reality that we have to have that conversation about. We're making grown-up decisions here. So let's be grown-ups as we move forward in your housing choices and what's available to you. And again, it could be maybe single family is not it. Let's not look for that. Let's look for a 2 to 4 unit. How do you feel about that? Or how about townhome, or how about condo? So we start looking at what's going to be good for you in this moment in time to get into housing, right? And then they'll make that decision based on the things that they'll look at their lifestyle and what could happen to them in the next 6 months, next 12 months, next 24 months.
Mabel, in some sellers' markets, I know that some realtors advise their clients that if you qualify for a $500,000 home, start looking at $425,000, just so you'll have some money left over if you need it. What about that?
Yeah, that's true. I think that's a strategy as well. And that's the thing, that this is a fluid situation. So, and each individual is going to make a decision that's going to help themselves. And they're going to look at their story and where they sit in this housing story and how they want to feel after closing. And I think most people want to feel when they get those keys that they're so happy. Not that they settled, but that they're absolutely happy. Now, did they settle on a couple things? Sure, but not on the experience of ultimately being that homeowner, crossing that threshold and saying, this is mine. So everything leads up to that point. But they know that it's going to be complex. It's not going to be easy, and it's going to take time to actually find the place that they want. But I think, what's really important is just having that honest conversation with people. You can't delude them and say, hey, the market is great and whatnot. You really need to prepare them, because it's emotional for them, right? For us, for me, I'm doing transactions all the time. I don't have the luxury of being emotional. I have to be at pace, and I have to stay, calm and ready for my people. they're going to be emotional because they're going to start getting frustrated. So at that point, that's where you're talking strategy all the time, regrouping, meeting, looking at everything that's on the market, looking at everything that's been sitting on the market as well, which is another opportunity. So, at the end, when they cross that threshold and they have those keys, I want them to feel satisfied in that moment.
And so, Mabel, if I come to you and I want to buy a house and I'm just kind of conservative, like let's go in a little under list price, let's get all the contingencies I want, and I lose a house, and then I lose another, and then I lose another. How long does it take before a buyer says, forget it, Mabel, I want to go in to win, I want to win big, I want to win fast, and how do I do it?
Sometimes it happens on the first one. So, well, yeah, I mean, they're just like, oh my God, or the second one. I think it depends on how much how much pain they can withstand,
Right.
I mean, it could be like one, it could be three, and at the same time, you're having you're having let's have a reality check here. You see what's happening. So do you still want to experience this, and how many more times? So then they have to make a decision and then say, yeah, I really don't like getting beat. I'd like to have a win. So then we start having a winning strategy. And that could take a little bit as well, right? But if you're sitting there in the malaise and just saying, no, this is what I want to offer 20% less. It's like, even then, if somebody says that to me today, I would be like, yeah, you're not doing that. We're not looking at this home then. And you're not going to put in the offer because you're going to lose.
Wow.
And I'm being completely realistic with them. And then I'm going to open up my laptop and I'm going to say, let me show you what homes are closing for in this community. Do you see this? Whatever the story is, I will share it with them. And in that data, it could show like they're all closing at 97% of list price, or they could show it 103% of list price. I said, that's what they're closing in. This is the range. So you can offer anywhere between that and you'll be successful.
I see.
So I'll share that with them. And I'll say, but by the way, they're closing 97 to 103%. By the way, the sellers in this market, in this community, are actually giving up to $7,000 in closing cost credits, because I can see it in the data. So I share that story with them, and then we put that offer together. So, people have to understand what they're walking into, and they have to understand, to put themselves in the best light, they need to be informed. And that's where I come in and give them all this information to arm them the best way possible, so when they make an offer.
Oh, that's wonderful. And it wasn't too many years ago, Mabel, that a winning offer from a buyer would be full price or above full price, no contingencies, closing whenever the seller wanted to close the deal, not when the buyer wanted, but when the seller did. And also the speed. The offer had to come in at the speed of light as soon as the house came on the market. So is that what's required for a winning offer in Chicago right now?
Yeah, I would have to say yes. I mean, and again, it goes back to, what are you looking at? It's the type of property. All of that actually really matters. I mean, we're looking at market times, 62 days until contract, right? So it's moving quickly, but 62 days, there's some promise in there. I mean, that you could still get into something. And it's because what I'm seeing is a lot of sellers are like, I want everyone to have the opportunity to see it. Yeah, we can get an offer on day one, but we have 10 other showings that are coming up. So we're going to wait until all these folks get to see it, right? They want to give their property the best chance possible. They're not going to go after the first offer. They want to see what comes back from that community after 5 days. I mean, some language even on the listing say, seller will make a decision after 10 days. Right? They're giving everybody, notice, like, sure, you could submit, and by the way, they're going to decide on day 10. So there is that language out there. And moreover, again, they have every right to say, yes, I received your offer and I will be responding to it at this time. So
Interesting. Mabel, a few weeks ago, I talked to a wonderful mortgage lender from New York who said he has seen bouncers at the open house. People who want to see your pre-approval letter before they'll let you in to see that house. Is that happening in Chicago?
I can't say that it is or that it isn't. I mean, to be honest, my clients they'll check out the open houses, that kind of thing. But for the most part, just to say, yeah, this one's off the list, right? We'll try to get as many in there. But if anything, it's more like crowd control, where I've had 40 people waiting outside before I open the door.
Wow.
So then it's like, okay, I can only let 2 groups come in depending on the size. Please walk through, they go out, the next people walk in, right? Because you want to have a sense of control. So you don't want just 40 people, 40 groups essentially emerging onto this place. So it's for control, right? And security purposes. You want to know who's coming in. You want to make sure people are signing in. So it has to be very organized, highly organized. And you can't just have 40 people walk through the house, just and any will. You have to ensure that you're doing it properly, that everyone in sequential order. And then on top of that, everybody has the right to look at everything without feeling like they're imposed upon by somebody else.
Interesting, Mabel. And so a challenging market in Chicago. But let's fast forward to the good stuff. The moment you get to call your client or text your client and say, you got the house. Tell me about that.
Oh, they're happy as punch. Then we go to the inspection. So that's another challenge. But they're like, oh, we got it. They feel relieved, they feel relieved. But at that point, I'm like, okay, now we got to do the inspection. And at that point, it's really about negotiation. If there's some things that come back that are not so great, then it's like, you're in, you're like in the door. It's awesome. Right. It's like I got into a 5-star restaurant. Okay. The appetizers weren't great, but the meal is going to be delicious, that kind of thing. So, but you got in the door, and that's really what's important, because then after that, it's really about having a conversation about some of the conditional things that you can find in an inspection. And then you may not find anything. Some things are just, honey-do lists, that type of thing. So, but it's always promising because it's a relief. Actually, people feel relieved, like, oh my God, we did it. We're in,
Right.
so.
A wonderful moment in every home buyer's life, every seller's life, and in every real estate agent's life. So, Mabel, what would you like to leave us with as we think about buying a home in Chicago in 2026?
I would say patience. A lot of patience and more patience because of the fact that there's so little inventory. Moreover, have this plan of where you see yourself and what type of housing. Are you also willing to make an adjustment in what that is? Some people think about like, it has to be a single family home. And then they realize, well, maybe I could do that 2-flat. And that 2-flat actually has a duplex down. So it's like I have a home, but I also have income. Right. Or it's like, wow, this condo is massive. It's a duplex. It's like, oh my gosh. Or it's a townhome. This is like a single family home. Right. So what are the other things that you're willing to do and to look at and not be fixated on one type of property, but something that meets your needs that maybe didn't check the box the first time? So patience, be creative, be flexible, and be ready.
Oh, Mabel, great advice, great strategies, and great tactics coming from the city of Chicago. And Mabel, as my first guest on my new show, and my guest on my 52nd show, the 1-year anniversary, I want to thank you for giving us straight talk about how to buy a house in today's market. Thank you, Mabel.
Congratulations, Stephen, and happy anniversary.
Thank you. Mabel Guzman with Coldwell Banker Hyde Park in Chicago, the past president of the Chicago Realtors, and the recipient of the Illinois Realtors' highest honor, its Distinguished Service Award. Next time on Real Estate This Week, expert strategies for coming up with the cash to buy a house. And until then, I'm Stephen Gasque, and thank you for listening.
A brand new episode of Real Estate This Week with Stephen Gasque drops every weekend, everywhere. And you're invited to listen, subscribe, and follow us. Just look for Real Estate This Week with Stephen Gasque. The best real estate strategies out there, just for you.